I've been joined by Sedem Ofori. Good morning, Sedem.
Good morning, Winston.
How are you?
Thanks to God, I'm well.
Good, because Fiifi Kwetey talks about the fact that President Mahama has not had to sell any state asset in order to ensure that the Ghanaian economy is doing well. Now, I'm going to play the soundbite here because he talks about what incompetence is all about. And he has a long range of issues that are deemed to be incompetence. And in that bit, he talks about how the NPP sold Ghana Telecom.
Okay.
Incompetence is when a government sets a target of 4% budget deficit in 2008 and finishes the year at 15% deficit, missing the target by a massive 11%, and in the process recording the highest budget overrun in our history from 1983. That's incompetence. Incompetence is when a government sets out to build 4 major road projects called the GAMCO 4, and that government doesn't even have a clue where the financing is coming from. That's what they call in the Bible, deciding to build a mansion. You don't even have a clue where the money is coming from. That's a for you definition of incompetence. Incompetence is when a whole government gets scammed by a phantom IFC company and goes through the global humiliation of chasing non-existent $1 billion loan all the way into a hairdressing salon. That is the definition of incompetence. Incompetence is when a government sets up a whole ministry in charge of railways and still fails to deliver 1 centimeter of railway line. Actually, get that worse, presides over a situation where some of the old lines that were in there before that government came started being sold as crap. That is the definition of incompetence. Incompetence is when a so-called economic guru praises the macroeconomic performance during the period of President Mills while attacking the same President John Mahama for not handling the economy well from 2013 today, without even realizing that it's the same President John Mahama who was the head of the economic management team during the period 2009 to 2012. It is incompetence not to realize that.
What is our fact check and position, Sedem?
Well, our fact check and position is that claim is false. If you look at the divestiture strategy that was used to sell off Merchant Bank to Fortis, it qualifies as the same that we've seen in the past relative to Ghana Telecom to Vodafone.
Okay.
We saw the distribution end of our the energy supply chain, our power supply chain side of ECG, and then also to Netco. And if you look at what we also did with Merchant Bank to Fortis, these are divestiture strategies that qualify as outright sales, sellouts. So if you weigh those against the claims of the minister, you see that those are not true.
So finally, so that's an indication that what he said there was false. Finally, there's a bit that he says Ghana is not under an IMF bailout. I just want us to listen to what Fiifi Kwetey says about Ghana and the IMF and borrowing, and then we do a fact check on that particular one.
I'm so excited because they claim the IMF boss said Ghana was spending a lot of money, a lot of its borrowing on consumption. But it's obvious that the IMF boss was making reference to the huge percentage of domestic debt, which was going into especially critical consumption expenditure, such as public sector wage and subsidies, especially in the years 2014 and 2015. That is what the IMF boss is referring to. Now, it was precisely because of this that's why the NDC government initiated our homegrown policies to bring correction to this situation without inflicting too much hardship and pain on the people of Ghana. Is this not easy and straightforward? Why would they create the impression that we have gone borrowing money from abroad in order to use it for consumption when everybody knows that the reference actually is to the domestic borrowing, which actually we were using to support the exponential jump that happened in both subsidies and also public sector wage.
Okay, so you've had this, when he talks about homegrown policies. Now, have we gone to the IMF for a bailout, or we have just gone there for credibility, as we are being told? And so we have presented our own homegrown policies, which at the end of the day would not qualify us under an IMF bailout setup.
Well, there's a tricky one. And there's one of those circumstances where you see that, well, it's partly true and partly false. True in the sense that none of the agreements that were signed relative to the IMF coming into our economy states that it's a bailout. So you can't qualify it as such. But if you looked at it from the purpose or the need angle of calling on the IMF, typically an economy calls on the IMF under such circumstances when it's ailing. It needs the assistance of the IMF in order to get either put proper its balance of payment, have some international credit credibility, or become credit worthy. Okay, and these are the reasons for which we brought them on board. So if we really were struggling to the extent that we needed to go to them, and also if you look at the back and forth that happened sometime in 2014, the president himself can say that we are not going to IMF. The minister also said that there's no way we are going to IMF, and eventually going there because we're hard pressed to do so. It tells you that, well, then we were in such an economic situation that we couldn't help. The economy needed help. So it's one of those situations where our fact check will say that it's both true and then also has elements of falsehood. If it's a bailout, it will be so stated.
Yes, so
it is not stated so.
So it's not stated.
But if you look at
that
the
means it's true that we are not under a bailout.
Well, but what is the purpose of bailouts? So if it's not so stated and it serves the same purpose.
Oh no, this one we went for. We went with homegrown
for
policies, for credibility.
But that's the reason why you go for a bailout. It's true, but it also has it also has falsehood to it.
Yeah, that's
or
what
incorrectness, if you will.
So it is true, but some way, some harm is needed.
It's one of the situations of life. Not everything is cut out in black and white sometimes.
Anyway, all right. So thank you very much, Sede Mofori, for joining me with Fact Check this morning on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Well, for us on 3FM 92.7, as part of your election command center, what we seek to do is that, look, the politicians make lots of promises on the campaign platform, okay? They address lots of press conferences and they tell you all manner of things. We would want to ensure that at the end of it all, you're able to make the right choice. And in order to make the right choice, what we have decided to do is to, whenever the politicians make these promises, whenever they address these press conferences, we go behind, we do our checking, and then we bring you the facts every Tuesday morning at 7:15 right here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. My name is Winston Amwa, and I was joined by Sede Mofori. Superstar, I guess we'll meet you on the flip side.
Yeah, we should. We'll still be doing our fact check so the public can expect us.
All right.